Abby and I escaped to our cabin in Starbuck, Minnesota this last night for just a quick getaway for some quality time. And after I tucked her into bed, I opened my news feed and I read these sobering words from our Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. He says, "This is going to be the hardest and saddest week of most Americans' lives. This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment, our 9/11 moment, only it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country." Sobering words, and I think Christians might add to that as we begin Holy Week, that this is going to be our Golgotha moment, our Calvary moment. You know, one of the hardest challenges for pastors on a typical Easter, when the sun is shining and life is going on as normal, you know, Easter egg hunts and bunnies and boats going in the water and all the rest. The hardest thing is for a pastor to get us to ponder the reality and the ugliness of death before we race to the good news of the resurrection and new life. Except this year. This is a year where death is all around us and the numbers are growing. And this is the week where we're supposed to begin to reach a climax in some of our worst hit hotspots in our country. In this moment, it's a sober note to begin our journey to the cross on, and yet maybe it's the most appropriate. This is a week where we ponder death. We ponder the death of Jesus and what it means for our own death, and whether or not death gets the final word or not. So friends, I want to invite you on a journey this week with me. I want us to ponder the last words of Jesus on the cross. I've been thinking about it this way. What if we let our lives' first response in this pandemic mirror the last words of Jesus? But then I started to think, you know, for many families, it's actually more serious than that. Chances are all of us will be saying goodbye to a loved one affected by this virus in the next week or two or month. Whether it's a close family or another family friend, very few of us are going to be untouched. And so it's actually, I've been asking the question, maybe what if we died with the last words of Jesus on our own lips? So would you join me as we begin this journey this week? And let me begin today with the first word from the cross. Luke chapter 23 says that when they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right, one on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." Jesus died the way he lived, extending amazing grace to unworthy sinners. His last words were to release people from the debt that they owed. And man, I know that if you're like me, I want to die in a way where I don't have regrets, where I don't have unspoken tension or conflict in a relationship, words that were hurtful that I shared, that leave a wound that festers for years, if not generations beyond my life. Let me ask you point blank today. Are you ready to die? If you were to die in the next 2 weeks, and the stories, the most tragic part of this moment is that people are dying, but it happens so quickly that all of a sudden you're rushed. You end up checking yourself in for a test, and then it's positive. They rush you into the hospital, and then things progress quickly, and suddenly people are dying, isolated from their loved ones. And some of these last-minute conversations don't happen. So this week, this Holy Week, who might you need to forgive? Who might you need to ask forgiveness from? I invite you to sit in that question. I know that's not a fun question, but the times are what they are, urgent. And the greatest gift you can give to someone is to release them from whatever wrong was caused, or whatever offense was done, to extend grace and say, you're forgiven. I forgive you. Let's move on. What a gift you can give someone. So would you sit in that question this week as we marvel at the one perfect life, the one person who had nothing to forgive, nothing that he needed to be forgiven for, and yet the one we owed everything to, he died with grace on his lips, forgiveness in his heart. May we follow in his footsteps this week, this holy, holy week. So, Father, help us to forgive those who have wronged us, not knowing they have, not knowing what they've done. And Lord, give us the ability to extend grace to those who very well knew what they were doing, and bring healing on this holy week. Grace and peace, friends.